Thank you everyone for watching the East Village Queer Film Festival presented by the amazing WOW Project. You've just finished watching a really interesting, different, cool film called David's Friend. My name is Gene Fischer. I'm a filmmaker. I've worked with WOW Project before, and I'm going to do the moderation and QA for the film. I am very happy to be joined by Nora Burns, writer and director, and then Adrienne Truscott, who is the film's director. Hi.
Hi.
That's Adrienne. Nora, say hello.
Yep.
Hi.
First of all, I love the idea of this as a film. And as a filmmaker, but also having produced plays, the idea of taking a play and making it a film just gets it to a wider audience. And I think following this non-traditional format was really great. So kudos to both of you guys.
Good.
And because of that, I'm glad I got to moderate this session. So, the film to me is the film is so nostalgic, and Nora in the beginning, it's like, oh shit, why wasn't I there? It's too much fun. Like, you bring so much energy and fun, but tell us how the idea came about, first as a play and then for the film.
Well, the play was about, I don't know, 4 years ago, I guess it was 2016. I just happened to it was, December 6th, which was David's birthday. I was like, oh, I should do something. So I posted this picture of him on Facebook, and, and I'd sort of been going on with my life, since he died, performing and a family and kids and still doing shows and stuff. But I just sort of was so struck by, I don't know why, somehow putting that up and seeing him, I was like, I just couldn't, suddenly he came back. And I was like, I have to do something that is something. And so it started with just at Dixon Place. I just did a tiny little, show upstairs for 10 people and had some slides and told some stories. I was just like, oh, that doesn't feel like it. It feels like there's more to this. And then I brought Adrienne in, and we just started, first we did a big night downstairs at Dixon Place with I had montages made, and sort of it was the start of the show. But even that was we kept being okay, we need to do more with this. And then La Mama came in with, commissioning it. And so then that's when it became the show that got the reviews and became the actual show.
What stage was it filmed on? I don't remember.
The stage it was actually filmed on was, because then after the La Mama run, we condensed it a little bit from being a play, because Adrienne had really staged it with set and everything. But we condensed it back down into a smaller show that's just me and Billy, and we can travel with it on the computer. And so we've kind of been traveling with it a little bit, and we filmed it in LA because that's where, we perform a lot at this place in LA that's just a funky little drag bar at a Mexican restaurant. But my filmmaker friends were out there, so we raised some money, and that's where we just decided to film it.
Okay, that's really great. So then Adrienne, Nora just said you helped with the staging. So when did you get involved to sort of bring this more from stage to film?
Nora had written the bulk of I would say a first draft. Nora, does that feel right?
Yeah.
And then she brought me in pretty early at we were still shaping the writing and the structure of it just on the page, and doing we did a really basic reading with slides, and then we just kept doing it in lots of different places to sort of see how it behaved in different spaces, and let that tell us a little bit how big it should go, how intimate it should stay, how much of Nora's natural storytelling should just be the bulk of it. But she's also a sort of natural archivist and had just all of these photos and all of these beautiful real physical things from their friendship. So we just figured out ways to bring that in. And it was great doing it in all the different spaces and teaching us what works and what doesn't. And eventually we did, like Nora said, we did like the sort of like, this is like the big theatrical version of it, but Nora always wanted to be able to do it on her own terms wherever. So like she said,
Right.
what originally in our biggest version had a set and 2 projectors and projections, not just on screens, but on set designed pieces designed to receive those projections and all the things. We also wanted to condense it into a, like, I put it in my suitcase and I'm off.
Right.
So, but in some, when I really, the filming of it was, I wasn't there for it. It was something that like Nora did with her other friends and collaborators. So there was a sort of organic by the seat of your pants, like, let's film this one and see how it comes out. And then, and so that one is a kind of, in a really beautiful way, I think, the pared down version
Right.
in a basement drag club, which is a good home.
I want to ask Nora a question without putting words in your mouth, but your inspiration obviously is David. You said that in the beginning, and your relationship and your love of David. But is there anything else? You said 6 years ago you started this, and I had some thoughts in my head, but what was like, what was that turning point? Because also in the film, I guess it's about 2/3 the way through, it's fun and you're dancing. I'm like, shit, I want to be there. I want to be on stage dancing with you. And then all of a sudden you like, sit down and you start changing. And then the tone changes and you start crying. And so, what was the idea by, the Dave was inspiration, but then you took that flow. So what was your idea there?
Well, I mean, a lot of it was, working with Adrian and seeing what worked, and it just sort of did. I mean, there were times when I'd scrap the whole thing kind of and almost start again. And I wanted to get everything. I wanted to get the fun of New York and being young and, having this great friend, but then also this idea that, and Lucy, who dramaturged, I think she sort of said it really well, that, you just sort of assume people will be in your life forever. I mean, there are certain friends who are so close that you just think they'll be there forever. So you're living your life and expecting to get back to them, and then they're not there. And I think as we get older, we realize these things that are, these people that are missing, like, oh my God, that I've spent this huge chunk of my life without this person. So I think, there's stuff about getting older and,
and memories and bringing back.
I've always said about one-woman shows, like, I just don't want them to be self-indulgent or boring. It has to be things that people can relate to. And I think Adrian really, she understood that so well and was able to form it that way.
Take off my shirt and start to dance. And it was on this
A lot of the people, I think, that probably will see this film are younger and weren't around for that. So has that been, in the performances, have you heard that from younger generation where, they know about the AIDS epidemic, but the depth of that, I think, is really interesting for younger people.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing I've loved, not only younger queer people, but also, like, I've had people bring their straight niece to the show and they've been, moved and loved it and stuff. And I think that's what I want it to be, is something that transcends just, being an older gay person who lost many friends, but something that, anyone can get.
I mean, I just, as a gay man, and I was at the tail end of that generation, but I know so many young people that they have no idea. It's just such a faraway thing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to remember, because we don't know what's next. I mean, we didn't think we'd be here in 2020 with, this world we're living in. So, you know, what's next? So I think it's really important that you brought that to us. Like, what came first, the play, or I'm going to use all these multimedia images between the music and the photos and the videos, because it gives you this really holistic, encumbering experience.
Yeah. I mean, certainly like the trove of like the trove of all of these exchanges of intimacy in this friendship that were like physically manifest in notes and napkins and photos, and seemed like such a huge part of how to share the intimacy, and like there's such a complexity and levity to this relationship. It's so intimate, and such a love. It's such a romance, like such a platonic or something beyond platonic romance. So it seemed like all those exchanges that she had, that you have when you have that intensity, really needed to be present. For me, like using video when you can't sort of embed it in some sort of set way, I always it's always scary that it might become PowerPointy. So we kind of tried to use a lot of the multimedia aspects as like, when is something functioning as environmental, like helping set the scene, which was fun when we could project on like the whole wall of La Mama to feel like you're in Studio 54, you're in the apartment with the futon. Some media we thought of as artifact to be used, like Nora's real journal, like definitely read from the real journal so that we know this is like you actually reporting back from that exact moment. And then sometimes the visuals, we categorize them as like when is it functioning as a punchline or a setup or something. And we tried to be sort of elastic with how we use that in terms of timing, in terms of where it's projected, when we have options for that. And it was always, Nora was always really clear that like she felt like that whole time constantly had a dance soundtrack to be danced to at any moment. So there was also a way of like shaping the audio
that's a
to
through
hold
line
it
through this whole film. I mean, and even I think, Adrian, what you're saying about you know, how you use that multimedia, and we're talking about it in a room, but I think a lot of that pertains to filmmaking, videos. Like, what was that dichotomy? Like, what's the break between the personal, like your own content versus, you know, rights-free content you found online with like Studio 54 and stuff?
Well, there was one very personal thing. A lot of the montages, and originally when we were doing it, all of the montages were made by my friend Len Whitney, he used to do the videos. I used to have a crazy gay cable show in the early 90s. And he would do the videos for that. And he used to do the videos for Boy Bar. So, and he's always been in my life, and he knew David and stuff. So I loved having that he made all these montages that were in there. When we did move to La Mama, Tal Yarden came in, he does a lot of these montages for Broadway and stuff. And it was interesting to work with someone who didn't really know me, and it kind of became more of just an artistic visual endeavor. Like he wound up doing the Studio 54 one, and which other one did he do, Adrian? Tal?
Some of the other environmental stuff. Yeah. And then he did a lot of the environmental stuff, like the sunset and the signs that look like, you know, you're in a club, and filling out that space.
Exactly. So.
What is the next step for the film? So you're in the East Village Film Festival, Queer Film Festival, and what else are you doing from both play and film? And
well, I don't know right now. I mean, I'd sort of, I was still doing it kind of around, and then it just so happened that we filmed this. And I just want to say about the filmmakers, Todd Hughes, I went to college with, and he and his husband, David Ebersol, have made a bunch of movies. Their current one is called House of Cardan, which is on, I don't know, Apple TV and Netflix now. But so they the reason we did it in LA is they live in Palm Springs and they wanted to do something with it. So we raised some money and we filmed it. And I mean, I really thought it was just going to be like a couple people with cameras, but I walked into that little, you know, tiny little, you know, drag bar theater, and it was like, looked like MGM. They had like, you know, cameras and lights and monitors and, you know, sound system. And then we did 2 shows, one with an audience, one without. And then they really like got it together and edited it right up and sent it to me and Adrian. And we sent back a few, you know, notes and ideas. And so I don't know. I mean, one thing with the music rights, it can never be a commercial release.
Yeah.
So I guess the most I can do is maybe submit it to, you know, I was thinking, oh, I'll submit it to lots of like, you know, gay film festivals, but that's a little weird now because they're all online. So, I mean, like I have people
doing
who
drive-in.
posted this on Instagram. So I have people going like, oh, we're going to watch from Australia and we're going to watch from Germany. So I'm like, well, does it even have to play a bunch of, I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, I think the way the world's evolving, and there's lots of different distribution opportunities, you know, it's just find the right one. Well, what else so how long have you guys been friends? You were friends before the project?
Yeah. We
Yeah,
met in P-Town.
P-Town, right?
Yeah, like, but I can't remember how long ago.
Okay.
Right?
We were both performing. We were both performing in P-Town one summer, and when you're a performer in P-Town, it's just this insane. You're wearing costumes on the street, and you're handing out flyers, and you're going to each other's shows and getting drunk after shows, and so.
Been there.
Adrian's also an amazing performer in addition to being an incredible director. So
Oh,
it's great to work with someone.
well, I also wanted to shout out like to you know, the guys who filmed it. Like I had a big hand in directing the live show, and then those guys filmed the live show. And I also think we're because we didn't have anything like prearranged about how involved I would be in what they shot, and so it was very kind of, in a way, in a very like, oh my God, it's COVID and everyone's around, and no, like I had to come home from tour, and I felt like they were very generous in letting me, you know, help clarify things as in what they had already shot. And so it was also fun in that way, because from where I stand, usually making live things that sometimes get filmed, my experience is often that filming something can really take, like, there's a level of pre-planning that we don't do the same way in live theater. So in some ways it was really great that they just did what they do and then let me respond to that as a director.
Is that
without
why
getting bogged down?
You said you filmed it twice, once with an audience and once without an audience. Is that why?
Yeah, the same day, both 3 camera shoots, just so they could get some close-ups and then also get audience reaction. And I mean, I will say one thing is, like, I always dread having to watch a filmed stage show. So just like I hate self-indulgent one-person shows, I hate filmed stage shows. So I was like, let's, you know, hopefully we can make this look as little like, you know, it hopefully be kind of almost a movie in and of itself. And I think, you know, I've sent it to people who never saw the stage show to say, like, does this work? And, you know, they've liked it and said yes. So I think hopefully it works on its own as well as just being a film version of a stage show, which, if you know from having done yours, it's a challenge because
I have a feeling, I'm sensing that there is a gay man in this room. Because music was so much a part of our lives back then. Mostly dance, but also rock and punk. But the band that was ours was Roxy Music.
What do you each have as your next projects going on? What's in the works?
Well, I was writing this disco musical that Adrian was supposed to direct, but she was in Australia, but then everything changed. She came back from Australia, my disco musical was canceled. So I don't know, I'm literally seeing what happens after this right now. I'm actually doing a little benefit based on Boy Bar for Dixon Place, but as far as creative and I don't know. I'm trying to get through the election and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Yeah, all my live projects have been have been postponed, and the earliest one is September 2021. So
Wow.
I have a live film, a filmed version of a live show of mine that also Nora was in. So apparently I'm going to have time to keep editing that. That's what I should be doing.
You know, artists have to keep going on. You know, we're all just, you know, I have friends in the industry, you know, from the production schedule on film stuff, it just was shut down. And, you know, there were some things already shot that they said they were still going in works, but I think it's just now, you know, it's just starting to get back to something.
Yeah. And I think for performers too, I was just gonna say, you know, because I have some friends who like had to stop performing and they immediately went to painting, or they were able to keep writing, but I'm that performer who I need a deadline. You know, we do shows with my comedy group and they're all canceled, and I'm just not someone, I'm not going to perform on Zoom, and you know,
Instagram live stream. Yeah. We've run out of time, but I want everyone, if you guys can tell everybody, shout out for yourselves and how they follow you on social media.
Nora Burns, and Nora Burns NYC is my Instagram, and it's actually all old stuff. So it's, if you like the show, it's all like the show. It's pictures of David, and
it's so great.
And you know, it's a very
it's an amazing archival profile. Mine is Mrs. MISSUS. What are those lines that are at the bottom? Underscore. Truscott on Instagram.
Truscott. Okay. Everybody follow them on Instagram. Any final words before we wrap up, ladies?
No, thank you so much for having us.
And for having the film. It's so exciting.
Thank you for making this beautiful work. All right, so that wraps up our QA for tonight. Thank you everybody in the audience for watching the film and coming to the festival. And the rest of the festival goes until this Sunday, October 11th. So visit The Wild Project, thewildproject.org, and check out some more films. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.